We just got finished watching Halloween Havoc, and this was a pretty decent show. Probably not my favorite NXT pay-per-view of the year altogether, but this was a pretty good pay-per-view. Built a few storylines, and I feel like that was really what they went for with this pay-per-view, was the storylines.
Yeah, this show was pretty fun. We didn't get too much of like the Halloween festive. You didn't get too many like special outfits from the wrestlers tonight, but overall still a good wrestling show. A lot of title changes, and yeah, some pretty solid matches on the night.
Yeah, definitely. And we kicked the night off with Javon Evans and Leon Slater defeating Mr. Iguana and La Parka.
Yeah, this match was pretty fun. I will say I did think it would be a little bit better. To me, this match was good. However, it felt like it had a little bit too much comedy bits in it, and it was a little bit too goofy. But overall, that being said, this match was still very, very fun and very good. And later in the night, we did get the announcement that we will see more of Javon and Leon. So that's another thing to be very excited about for these two. But yeah, this match was pretty fun. Glad that everybody kind of got their moments. La Parka got a good amount of time as well to shine. And yeah, Mr. Iguana still somebody who I definitely think we'll see on NXT a lot going into 2026.
Yeah, it was a pretty fun match. I pretty much agree with everything you said. I just felt like if they were going to go direction of like a little bit more of a comedy match, leaning more in towards that, I feel like they probably should have made the match a little bit shorter to kind of play into that a little bit, not make it as much during the match. But yeah, like you said, it was a really good match. There was a point where Leon and Javon, they were kind of face to face with like a close-up shot from the camera, and then Mr. Iguana was on the apron. He gets the Iguana and puts it between them, and they both just look at each other, and it was like, oh fuck. And then yeah, they kind of went on from there, and it was just a lot of really good stuff from this match. Mr. Iguana always looks really good. He does the comedy stuff, but he is a really good wrestler. Sometimes people can forget about that he can do some crazy moves and fly across the ring, fly to the outside of the ring. Yeah, he is a good wrestler. Same thing with La Parka. We've seen a lot of good stuff from him. This was the best La Parka that I've seen, the best La Parka match that I've seen so far since, I have been watching AAA, which hasn't been too long. But to be fair, La Parka, obviously the history is known with him, so they're going to want someone good, kind of holding that gimmick strong, and I feel like they picked the right person, whoever it is, because he's doing a really good job.
Yeah, but going up next, we had the Day of the Dead match between Ethan Page and Dr. Wagner Jr. for the North American Champion, and Ethan Page comes out on top. This match, I did like it. I think it did kind of its job. We did see a little bit of blood on Ethan Page. He came out with his gear, like the half face paint as well, which was really cool. But yeah, this match was really fun. I think my favorite part of this match is going to be the use of the mask with Dr. Wagner. Ethan Page kind of rips it, and you actually see the mask actually rip, but only it's still just covering the mouth and stuff like that. And then I'll eventually get used into the end of the match, where Ethan Page will kind of pull up the mask, blind Dr. Wagner Jr., and then he'll end up getting the win. But yeah, this match was pretty fun. Obviously, it's a WWE hardcore match, so it's not going to be too extreme, but I think it did have a few good bumps from here. And yeah, pretty fun match. But yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good, all things considered. I feel like since this was a hardcore match and they have another one on the card a little bit later in the night, I feel like they probably wanted this one to be a little bit more calm and not play as much into the weapons as maybe they should have. But yeah, it was a pretty good match. But moving on to our third match, and maybe the most important match storyline-wise, because there's kind of a lot of things going on here, and that is Blake Monroe defeating Zarya, becoming the NXT North American Champion. It's something I didn't really think would happen necessarily. I think we both said that she should be like a world champion somewhere along those lines, especially with the likes of someone who just won the title tonight that we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, it was a surprising win the way they did it. There was a point where Zarya hurt her shoulder, and Sol Ruka kind of pushes her into the post to kind of get it into place on some Rhea Ripley kind of thing. It looked like a turn for a second to me. I was a little bit confused by it about what exactly happened, but that ended up being what it was, and kind of played into how Blake won the match, hitting her glam slam, or I forget what it's called, but she does something and she does her finisher and she wins the move. She does two of them, one on the outside, one on the inside, and that is the finish.
Yeah, this match, I did like the use of the hurt shoulder from Zarya. At points it got a little bit too much, I think, but overall I did kind of still rock with it. Like you said, the Sol Ruka turn / helping her felt a little weird. It felt like there was like a lot of reactions I think people had. You kind of had the idea that, oh, is she trying to help her, or is she trying to turn on her now? or what kind of I thought it was trying to get herself DQ'd, so Zarya couldn't finish the match to kind of play it safe, which would kind of make Zarya a little bit mad. You know, the doubt kind of sits there in her mind. But yeah, Blake Monroe getting the win here is very interesting. Obviously, we had the world title match later on in the night for the women, but yeah, glad that Blake Monroe is holding gold going now into the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely. But moving on to the match, I was just referencing, talking about Tatum Paxley defeating JC Jane and what would probably be my favorite match of the night, the best match of the night. Honestly, this match was everything that it needed to be. It told a lot of story. That was kind of like a weird ending that we'll get into with Izzy Dame, where it's kind of confusing. Well, I guess we'll get into that going into the future on NXT. But yeah, Tatum Paxley is our new NXT Women's Champion.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see her get this win in the prediction videos. I kind of said I didn't feel like it was time for JC to lose, and if it was, I didn't think it would be to Tatum. However, they did pull the trigger on her, and they actually did give her the belt. Like I said, I think Tatum is somebody who the crowd has been very much behind as of late, and I think when she won that match, the reaction definitely showed that as well, because yeah, the crowd went absolutely crazy for her. But yeah, the turn between Izzy, or we kind of thought was going to be a turn from Izzy to Tatum, is a little interesting. I do kind of like it. It kind of sets up that, you know, we kind of know Izzy was going to do this eventually, but it looks like we're going to start it off with this. But Tatum kind of doesn't think it's a real turn, so we'll see how she reacts to everything over the next few weeks.
Yeah, this was definitely a match for Tatum to win. I was like kind of 50-50 on who I really thought was going to win this one. But the crowd reaction was there. They were chanting Tatum's name. They were doing everything to boo against JC Jane and Fallon Henley and everyone involved. And also I feel like this is just kind of good for JC Jane in a weird way, because now that this kind of title reign is over with, she could go on to more storyline kind of things with her group with Fallon Henley and Lainey Reed. I kind of have a feeling Fallon Henley will have something to do with turning her back on JC Jane at some point soon. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, all things considered, I think this was the best match of the night, and I really did enjoy this one. But the match I was referencing earlier as well is Dark State versus the Hardys in the Broken Rose match. Now, this is, if you watch TNA, they had, I forget exactly what the match was called, but they kind of did this exact same thing where they had like the ramp on the outside that was painted and all this kind of stuff. So it's sort of familiar work that we've seen from the Hardys if you've been keeping up with TNA. But yeah, this is obviously their match with TLC rules, basically, where tables and ladders and chairs are everywhere throughout the ring. But yeah, this was a great match, honestly. Like, it was a little bit surprising. It was kind of, I didn't know what to think of it, because the Hardys just beat Dark State for the titles, and now Dark State beat the Hardys for the titles. So I felt like it kind of, I don't know, I guess obviously it was supposed to get Dark State over to some degree. I don't think it really worked. But there was some interesting points throughout this match, and definitely a lot of good spots throughout this match, and Jeff Hardy is still crazy at his old age.
Yeah, this is a match where it kind of felt like a roller coaster. There was times where I was like really interested in kind of getting invested to the match, but there's also points where I was kind of just out of it, looking at something else, looking at Twitter, whatever it may be. But yeah, it was, I like the structure at the beginning where you have, you know, obviously the numbers advantage for Dark State. You kind of knew that was going to be played into, but the Hardys kind of quickly get them out of there. We see them go through the tables, and then eventually the finishing move was the I forget what move, where he clotheslines them from the ladder into the ring on top of the table.
Doomsday Device.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a really cool finish. I also like how they had, you know, Matt Hardy hung up in the Tree of Woe position, the corner, so he kind of can't get out. But yeah, this is a really cool match, and probably the best Dark State match, but the ending does kind of fall flat just because I don't think no one really wants them to be champions right now. But I guess that's something that we'll have to get used to at this point.
Yeah, the Doomsday Device from Dion Lennox was definitely really cool. He did it from the ladder on the outside to the inside of the ring through a table. Yeah, that was definitely really cool. That was definitely my favorite spot of the entire night, probably through all the matches here. But yeah, definitely not too much to really go on about this match. Dark State wins there, your tag team champions once again. We got the kind of tease earlier about Javon Evans and Leon Slater, so I guess that's something to look forward to with them winning the titles at some point. But yeah, hopefully we do get that soon. But our main event of the night, Ricky Saints defeats and retains the title versus Trick Williams.
Yeah, this match again, another fun one. We see Ricky get the win here. I think this was a very clean match. I kind of did expect something to happen after the match, but I kind of felt like that's something that we kind of shouldn't get used to as much anymore. At least I shouldn't get as much used to. But yeah, Ricky Saints getting the win here looks pretty good. I like the kind of this story was just Trick wanting to get him through the table for whatever reason, but eventually gets him through. But Ricky Saints pulls through and eventually gets the win. Really glad that Ricky Saints retains here. I feel like we will see Trick probably leave NXT somewhat soon. But yeah, glad that Ricky is going to retain and go on to continue to be the champion. I think he still has a lot left in him before we do want to see like the end of this reign.
Yeah, I definitely want to see a longer reign from Ricky Saints. You know, it was a big thing with Obafemi being defeated, so you don't want to lose that momentum that he gained from that quickly. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Trick Williams just went on a lot of great runs. He had a few NXT title runs. He had a TNA title run. So everything has been golden for Trick until just now. So, you know, I think Trick could handle this loss. He could probably handle a few more on this path. And, yeah, I think this did exactly what it wanted to do. Ricky Saints did his job. I feel like got more over with the crowd. Definitely helped out with that. At one point during the match, he did get busted open and had a little bit of blood flowing through it. And yeah, I feel like it was just a good, you know, night for Ricky Saints. He obviously retains his title, and that's pretty much all he wanted to do, because, you know, Ricky Saints, he obviously wanted to come to WWE with the leaving from AEW. So being that he is a champion and now he's finally going on a reign and he's retaining the title, he's not just losing it very quickly or anything like that. You could tell that he's very happy with his position in WWE, and that is good to see.
Yeah, but that would be the main event of the night. But going to the question I always ask, what was your favorite match of the night?
Definitely going to be Tatum, Paxley, and JC Jane. I feel like they absolutely just crushed it tonight, and a lot of storyline implications throughout it, and I guess we'll see more throughout that on NXT in the future.
Yeah, but that will do it from Halloween Havoc. Yeah, this was a very good show. I definitely think the JC Jane and the Tatum Paxton match is a match I think I'd recommend people to watch, just because I think it was a very good story for Tatum, and then obviously the reaction at the end. But yeah, very good show overall from NXT. But yeah, let us know what you guys think down in the comments below, and yeah, we will catch you guys in the next one.